Good morning. The July 19th, 2022 meeting of the Charter Authorizing Panel is called to order. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Department of Education auditorium and ask that you please silence your devices. We will facilitate a fair and responsible hearing today, and I ask that anyone speaking coming to the podium to speak to the microphone, or if you're joining us via Zoom, that you will be sure to state your name and title for the record, and then continue to speak clearly into the microphone for the benefit of the panel, the audience, and our viewing audience. This meeting is being live streamed. Immediately following our action agenda today, we will take a very brief break while we change the video systems, and then we'll come right back on to the same live streaming link and have a work session. So I hope that if you have time, you will join us for that. A transcript of this meeting will be posted on the DESE website. And with no further ado, let's get started. Panel members, we have a consent agenda, the minutes from our previous meeting in June, if you've had a chance to look at those.
I move approval.
I have a motion by Mr. Baldwin to approve the minutes.
Second.
And I have a second by Mr. Davis for those minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Consent agenda is approved. All right, our first action agenda item, Ms. Tally Harp. Tally, we have some new panel members, so if you don't mind, would you briefly give us a rundown of this expedited review process, what happens at DESE?
Yes. Good morning. My name is Tally Hart. I work with the district support team. The process for digital learning applications this year has been a little bit different than the last year. For example, the one that's being presented today had an approved plan last year, and they have just made revisions. So when a district or charter school submits their application, it goes through 4 teams. We review, we look for any of the changes that they've made from a previous year, and then we get them approved through all of our teams and presented to the charter authorizing panel if they're a charter school, or to the state board if they're a district.
That's right.
Okay. So today we have just one to present. It is Southside Charter High School and Southside Junior High School. This charter school did have an approved plan last year. However, they made revisions to their 7th and 8th grade. The Tri-Region Consortium, which is a collective of 3 of our three of our state cooperatives, changed their program to allow 7th and 8th grade. It was just K-6. So Southside opted to add their 7th and 8th graders to that Tri-Region Consortium, and they are still using Virtual Arkansas for 9th through 12th grade. So this has been through the review team at DESE, and we recommend it be approved.
And what is the length of time?
That's the length of time is through the way it was done last year is through the life of the charter, and I don't have that date. Do you have that date? Do you know that, Southside?
So I think previously we did either through the extent of the contract or charter, or if it were a long time, we changed it to match the 2 or 3 year. So the state board last year approved digital learning plans up to 3 years. And this year they've been approving up to 2 years, so that hopefully we can get them all to end about the same time and make any adjustments that we need to make to the process.
It's through 2025. Thank you, Ms. Joy.
22. So that would be in line.
And Dion Stevens with the district with the charter is on if there's any questions.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Stevens.
Good morning, Deb.
Panel members, any questions? Mr. Davis, start with you. Any questions?
I really don't have any questions, but would love to hear just a comment in regards to the learning that has taken place thus far with what's already in place and how that's impacted what's happening or what type of adjustments are being made in this situation.
Okay, so the tri-region, we've had a little bit of experience with it now for a year, so K-6. And how that works is the students have to sign on. They have a certified teacher that is hired through the consortium. And so they're participating virtually, but they're also held accountable and attendance is tracked through their teacher. They have support systems in place. We have a virtual liaison that we use that also supports the students and the families. And so we just feel like that this has worked so well for them that expanding to the 7th and 8th graders would be more in line of our goals.
Mr. Baldwin?
Yeah, good morning, Dion. Good to see you. I appreciated
Good morning.
reading your application. I thought it was well done. I don't have any questions. You guys do a great job, and I'm glad to
Thank
see
you.
doing this.
Mr. Zellner?
I don't have any questions either.
Okay. Ms. Saraceni?
I don't have any questions. I just want to commend them for the work they have done this far, and I enjoy seeing what their students are doing, and I have gotten to see that firsthand. Thank you.
Ms. Newton?
Thank you, Carla.
My question is not related to the application. I was on a Zoom yesterday and we were required to have physical presence. We couldn't just participate by voice. Is that something that the students have to do? Do teachers have to see them physically and engaged and involved in the process?
Yes, ma'am. That is how it works.
Dion, about how many students have been participating in your virtual program?
We'll have 18 next year.
18, we'll have 18 next year. Y'all know I have Novella sitting right here beside me.
I
so-
recognize the voice. Of course I do. All right. Panel members, no further questions. I'll accept a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I have a
A
motion.
second.
I have a motion by Mr. Baldwin and a second by Ms. Saraceni to approve the digital learning plan for Southside. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations, Dion
Thank y'all so much.
and Novella.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right. Ms. Summons, if you'll bring action item 2.
Good morning. Dory Summons, Desi Charter Office. Consideration for Cross County High School, a New Tech High School amendment request. Cross County High School, a New Tech school is requesting a class size waiver in teaching load and the rules governing standards for accreditation. Class size, and teaching load. And we have Mr. Prince, who is on the Zoom representing Cross County.
Yes, I am here with Miss Mindy Searcy, our federal programs and our district curriculum.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So you want to give a brief presentation, or you have up to 20 minutes, but do I need to do the oath with them because it's an amendment?
Yes, ma'am. For an amendment, you would need to swear in anybody who is speaking on behalf of the school. I don't know if they'll take 20 minutes, but for a presentation, yes, ma'am.
All right. If you'll raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Now, if you'll give us a brief presentation or explanation of your amendment request.
Yes, ma'am. Stephen Prince, high school principal, Cross County High. So we're asking for an amendment for class size for our ninth grade, our incoming ninth grade students. That would be the class of 2026. When we submitted the waiver, we had 63 students enrolled in that class, in that grade, I mean. And so with that being so close, and that class has historically been a very large class. Currently, as of today, we have 60 students enrolled in that grade. And we still, of course, school will be starting up in a couple of weeks, and we still have a few school choice students to register. So we're requesting that just for that ninth grade class and that group of students, this waiver for class size to progress with them, until their graduation year of, 2027, 2026.
It's 26.
Is it? Oh, it is 26, I'm sorry. And of course, with that, we have put in a few programs and protocols in place to kind of help with that class size. One of those being, we will be piloting for this year the Boundless Learning co-teaching model with our ninth grade English class, which will help. Of course, that would provide a second teacher in that classroom as well. So we are going to be piloting that to help with that class size and help with having that one. But we feel like with our NIET system of supports that's built in with our weekly PLCs, our leadership teams who are always supporting the teachers and in the classroom, that having a little bit of a larger class size, if the teachers ended up with a larger class size, then they would still be supported, students would still be supported, and we'd still have high student achievement. So along with working with that co-teaching model, we're doing our best to try to keep those classes under that 30 by maybe possibly looking at adding another section, but the schedule is not allowing that with every class right now, with every section of the ninth grade classes. And so we're asking for that just for that class, just for that ninth grade class, for the class size waiver.
Thank you, Mr. Prince. So it's not uncommon for a school district to have one year where there's a really large group moving through, and that's kind of the situation here, I believe. And your charter expires 2026, so you're requesting this waiver through that time, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, Ms. Saraceni, you have questions?
I just want to clarify that you're asking for the class size versus teaching load, or both?
In this case, it's both for class size and teaching load, just in case that teacher who may be teaching those ninth grade students would potentially go over their 150.
Okay, because you had the rationale for class size, which I totally understand. I was just wanting to know the rationale for the teaching load.
Yes, ma'am.
And will the teachers be compensated if they go over their 150?
That is something I would have to talk to our superintendent about. I know that's a rule in the law, so I would think that that's a potential that we could make sure we do that for them.
Mr. Duck?
Actually, a report in ABSCAN that they can run, and it's per day, so it's
Okay.
easily done.
Okay.
Mr. Davis?
You mentioned the idea of piloting co-teaching for 2022, 2023. If this deems to be successful, is that something that you plan to continue to do? I'm trying to get an understanding of, what is the plan beyond the piloting aspect of this work?
Oh, yes, sir. So when I say co-teaching, so something we already do, we already have some co-taught courses at 11th and 12th grade. And so those classes already have 2 teachers in those classes. This co-teaching, the Boundless Learning, will be done at 8th grade and 9th grade in our English classes for this year. And if it's deemed successful, our plans are to actually expand it into some of our math classes next year. That is our goal. So we're hoping it's going to be successful to do some more inclusion with all of our students. And hopefully, if this program works very well for our students and yields some student achievement and student growth, then we will be working on ways to expand that into our math next year and then hopefully some other English classes if needed.
Nothing else from me.
Mr. Baldwin?
So I had a question on the precedent that we're setting, but the chairman resolved that, that this is something that happens and is not the first time. Let me ask you this, are there any other classes other than this one that are pushing a limit? And I guess I'm wondering why you would just do this one class and not others if that is something you
Yes, right. I requested this class because it is the one when I submitted the waiver that it had 63 students in it. It had grown through the year. And luckily, the way the classes were dispersed in the last year's schedule, it didn't push any of those classes over that 30. But potentially, it has the potential to do that this year. Of course, depending on how scheduling ends up when school starts. And so we thought being right there on the cusp of that, right there on that 60, and of course having the 63 previously, and we still have students that are registering, and of course some that would likely drop as well. But having that, just having that safety net there to kind of help with that is something that we wanted to be considered. And also, one thing, and I think I may have put this in here, is one thing that we're requesting if this is approved is also that we will make sure that class does not go over more than 5 students over that 30 if it becomes to where it's over, unless there's 2 teachers in there in that co-teaching model. But just to kind of give that little bit of leeway.
Mr. Zellner?
So have you had discussions internally about once you have the data, so after this year, say, you look at the data from your co-teaching pilot and you're not seeing the results that you would like as far as student performance, what your backout plan or your next step would be?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. I don't think that the question of this co-teaching, this inclusion program, it's not something that's going to have to, that can go away. It may be, we may have to change the program. We may have to change a little bit of the operational pieces of the program, or maybe change the program we actually use. Maybe it's not Boundless Learning if that proves not to be successful, but I do think that will be successful based on their data through our training. But to clarify, the inclusion is for, the special education department. And so what that does is that gets those students who are typically in a different content class to be included in their general content classes. And so that's something that we will have to plan for in the future to start working toward the new rules and making sure that all of our students, or most of those students, are in those inclusion classrooms and being exposed to the general education content and not just, for lack of a better word, the resource classrooms.
Ms. Newton?
I don't have any questions.
Ms. James? I believe they're going to need some changes.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Walter was just pointing out to me on my school info that they already have a waiver of Arkansas Code annotated 617-812, which is the statute that addresses compensation for teaching load. So they would need to add the standard, or the new standard for teaching load, which is 1A.6. And I believe that Mr. Prince confirmed that they do want to add that.
Yes.
Okay. I believe that's all they would need to add to effectuate the waiver.
And Mr. Prince, so your numbers have already changed since you submitted your application. And, we're trying to be very judicious with the use of waivers. So if you see that this number is not going to fall through, is your plan to come back and rescind this waiver request?
Yeah, I do think that's definitely a possibility. If that class size drops say we only enroll 55 by the time school starts, then yes, that is definitely something I would consider coming back and rescinding, because we wouldn't necessarily need it at 55 because we wouldn't be so close to that mark.
I do have a question, Ms. Kaufman.
Yes, ma'am,
What
go ahead.
would be the rationale behind changing that or just leaving it in place, anticipating the need for growth? I'm saying it seems like a fundamental, technical, bureaucratic kind of thing to do when it could very well change the next year.
Just that we're trying to kind of keep up with who has waivers, and when we do our monitoring, that's one of the things that we're looking for is how are you utilizing those waivers? And so not only do the waivers go through the approval process at the charter panel, but they also go through the state board, as you know, and it's just been that we're really looking at how schools are utilizing the waivers and trying to decide what changes need to be made. If all the schools are needing the same waiver, then, we have to question why is that, and is it a barrier to education? And so that's why we're just trying to have the most accurate list of waivers being used.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Then I'll accept a motion.
I move to approve.
I have a motion by Ms. Newton to approve the Cross County High School, a new tech school amendment request,
Second.
and a second from Mr. Davis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And because we have a unanimous decision, do we need to fill out our voting sheets, or if everybody just goes in and marks yes?
That's a good question. I would go ahead, just in keeping with procedures, just to read the voting sheets.
Okay. All right. If you'll go in and mark your voting sheets, please. Ms. Saraceni, you want to start us?
I support the waiver for class size and teaching load to accommodate the number of students in ninth grade as they move through toward graduation.
Mr. Davis?
I support the waiver to accommodate the number of students, as well as to pilot a co-teaching model and create a more diverse, inclusive model of education.
Thank you. Mr. Baldwin?
I support the waiver, and I think it's a proactive step given your number of students.
Mr. Zellner?
I support the waiver for class size, given the obvious planning and due diligence Cross County has done it to endeavor to improve the education of their local students.
All right. Ms. Newton, please.
I support the waiver to accommodate additional population of students and increase the opportunity for learning with the co-teaching model.
All right. Any other items before us before we adjourn? All right. Panel members, we will take up about a 10-minute break, let everybody get set for our work session, and then we'll reconvene. If I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And a
Second.
second. And a second from Ms. Newton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.